The bridge of the warship was quiet except for the soft beeping of computers. Commander Jake Morrison sat in his chair, watching the stars move past the windows. His crew worked at their stations, checking numbers and running tests. They had been in deep space for 3 months now, exploring areas that no human had ever seen before. The ship was called the Vengeance. It was the first real warship that humanity had built for exploring beyond their own solar system. Jake was proud to command it. His crew of 200 people were the best Earth had to offer. They were ready for anything, or so they thought. Lieutenant Sophie Hayes sat at the communications station. She was young but very good at her job. Her fingers moved across the controls as she monitored different frequencies. Suddenly, she stopped. Her eyes went wide as she stared at her screen. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," Sophie said. Her voice was tight with excitement and worry. Jake turned to look at her. "What kind of strange?" "It's a transmission, sir. But it's not from any human source. The patterns are completely different from anything in our database." The bridge went silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing. This was the moment they had all wondered about. Were they really alone in the universe? Now they had an answer. "Put it through the translation software," Jake ordered. "Let's see what we can make of it." Sophie worked quickly. The computers hummed as they tried to make sense of the alien signal. After a few minutes, voices began to come through the speakers. They were distorted and broken, but the translation software was doing its job. "This is Galactic Council. Under attack. Need help? Anyone who can hear, please respond." The message repeated several times. Each time, Jake could hear the fear in the voices. These were people, or whatever they were, who were desperate. They were dying. Lieutenant Commander Amy Chun walked over to stand beside Jake's chair. She was his second in command, a smart woman who had fought in Earth's last war. She knew what real combat looked like. "What do you think, Commander?" Amy asked quietly. Jake rubbed his chin. This was a big decision. If they responded, they would be making first contact with alien life. Earth's government had given him authority to act on his own in situations like this, but the weight of it pressed down on his shoulders. "Sophie, can you clean up that signal any more? I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." Sophie worked for another 10 minutes. Slowly, the message became clearer. What Jake heard made his blood run cold. The transmission told a story of war. Multiple alien species had banded together into something they called the Galactic Council. They had lived in peace for thousands of years, trading and helping each other. But then something had come from beyond the edge of known space. They called them the Devourers. The Devourers were killing everything in their path. They destroyed planets, consumed resources, and left nothing but dead worlds behind them. The Galactic Council had tried to fight back, but they were losing badly. Their fleets were being destroyed. Their colonies were being wiped out. They were calling out to anyone who might hear, begging for help. But there was something else in the message that caught Jake's attention. The aliens mentioned Earth. They said they had detected human radio signals decades ago. They had studied humanity from a distance. And they had decided not to make contact. The reason shocked Jake. The aliens classified Earth as a Class 12 death world. According to their files, it was one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. The gravity was too high. The atmosphere was full of poisonous oxygen. The weather was violent. Deadly predators covered every surface. Diseases lurked everywhere. By all logic, intelligent life should never have evolved on Earth, let alone survive long enough to reach space. But humans had done more than survive. They had conquered their planet and reached for the stars. The aliens were terrified of what that meant. They thought humans must be incredibly dangerous to come from such a harsh world. "They're afraid of us," Amy said, reading the same data on her screen. "They think we're monsters." Jake almost laughed. Humans had always imagined that aliens would be the scary ones. Now he was finding out that the rest of the galaxy saw humanity as the threat. It was ironic. "Sir, what do we do?" Sophie asked. "Do we respond?" Jake stood up from his chair. He walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying. They had called for help, even though they were afraid. That took courage. He thought about Earth. He thought about human history, all the wars and struggles. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years. They had developed weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They had survived plagues, famines, and disasters that would have ended most species. But humans had also learned to work together. They had built cities and created art. They had explored their world and then reached beyond it. They had learned that the strong had a duty to protect the weak. At least, that was what the best of humanity believed. Jake made his decision. Sophie, open a channel. Broadcast on all frequencies. He waited until she nodded. Attention Galactic Council. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the human warship Vengeance. We have received your distress call. We are coming to help. Send us coordinates and tactical information. We'll be there as fast as we can. He turned to Amy. Get me a channel to Earth Command. We need more ships. And prep the crew for combat. We're going to war. Amy smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a warrior who had found a worthy fight. Yes, sir. They wanted Deathworlders? Let's show them what that really means. The bridge erupted into activity. The crew moved quickly, each person knowing their job. The Vengeance changed course, pointing toward the coordinates that had been embedded in the distress signal. Jake sat back down in his chair. He knew this would change everything. Humanity was about to meet the galaxy for the first time, and that first meeting would be written in fire and blood. The Vengeance jumped to faster than light speed. Behind it, back at Earth, alarms were going off. More ships were being prepared. Soldiers were being briefed. Humanity was mobilizing for war. The aliens had called for help from the Deathworlders. Now they were going to get exactly what they asked for. Jake just hoped they were ready for it. Because when humans went to war, they didn't do anything halfway. They would bring fire and steel, and they would not stop until the job was done. That was the way of the Death World. That was the human way. 3 weeks had passed since the Vengeance received the distress call. Now 6 human warships dropped out of faster than light travel at the edge of the Kepler system. Jake stood on his bridge and stared at the view screen. What he saw made him angry. The system was burning. 3 planets orbited a yellow star similar to Earth's sun. The third planet had been home to billions of aliens. Now it was under attack. Huge ships hung in orbit, firing down at the surface. Explosions bloomed across the planet like deadly flowers. Cities were being turned to ash. Scan those ships, Jake ordered. I want to know what we're up against. The sensor officer, a young man named Peter Grant, worked quickly. Sir, I'm reading 40 enemy vessels. They're big, really big. The smallest one is twice our size. And they're strange. The hulls look organic, like they're alive. But the weapons are definitely technology. Jake studied the enemy ships on his screen. They did look alive. Their hulls seemed to pulse and move. It was disturbing to watch. These were the Devourers, the enemy that had been destroying the Galactic Council. What about friendly forces? Amy asked. Peter checked his readings. I'm detecting some Council ships in orbit. Looks like maybe 15 vessels. They're taking heavy damage. Wait, I'm also reading ground forces. The planet still has defenders fighting on the surface. Jake nodded. Good, they weren't too late. Not completely. Open a channel to the other human ships, he said. It's time to introduce ourselves. Captain LeVara Bennett commanded the Relentless. She was older than Jake, a veteran of Earth's last major conflict. Her voice came through clearly. Vengeance, this is Relentless. We see them. What's the plan? We hit them fast and hard, Jake said. No warnings, no talking. These things are killing civilians. We end them. The other captains checked in. Marcus Webb on the Iron Wolf, Chun-Li on the Stormbreaker, Sarah Kim on the Night Fury, and Ray Cooper on the Harbinger. All of them were ready. All ships charge weapons. Target the biggest Devour vessels first. Fire on my mark. The human ships moved into position. The Devourers hadn't noticed them yet. They were too focused on destroying the planet below. That was about to be a fatal mistake. Mark, the human railguns fired. These weapons used magnetic fields to accelerate solid metal slugs to incredible speeds. They were simple, brutal, and devastatingly effective. Earth had designed them to break apart asteroids for mining. Now they were being used as weapons of war. The first salvo of railgun slugs crossed the distance in seconds. They hit the Devourer ships like the hammer of an angry god. The organic hulls, which had been strong enough to resist the Council's energy weapons, offered no protection against solid metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed. 3. Devourer ships simply exploded. Their hulls ruptured, spilling atmosphere and bodies into space. 2 more were crippled. Tumbling out of formation with massive holes punched through their centers, the Devourer fleet finally noticed the humans. They turned to face this new threat, but they moved slowly, like they couldn't believe what had just happened. Second salvo fire, Jake ordered. More railgun slugs tore through the Devourer formation. The Iron Wolf scored a direct hit on what looked like a command ship. The vessel broke in half, both pieces spinning away into the darkness. Now the Devourers started firing back. Energy beams lanced out toward the human ships. But the humans were smaller and faster. They dodged and weaved through space, their pilots pushing the engines to maximum. The Harbinger took a hit on its port side. Ray Cooper's voice came through with static behind it. Armor held. We're still in the fight. Lavra Bennett brought the Relentless in close to a Devourer ship. At point-blank range, she fired every weapon the ship had. Railguns, missiles, and laser cutters all hit the target at once. The Devourer ship died in a ball of fire. This is too easy, Amy said quietly. They're not used to fighting ships this small and fast. Cake agreed. The Devourers had clearly been winning against the Council because they had bigger ships and more firepower. But they fought like the biggest predator in the forest. They had never faced humans before. They had never faced prey that fought back with intelligence and fury. Within 30 minutes, the orbital battle was over. 20 Devourer ships had been destroyed. The rest were running, jumping to faster than light speed to escape. The human fleet let them go. There was more important work to do. Sophie, open a channel to the planet's surface. Find out where they need us most. The response came quickly. It was a translation, but Jake could hear the desperation underneath. Human ships, this is Commander Zekther of the Valian Defense Force. We have Devourer ground troops in Sector 7. Our lines are breaking. We need immediate support. Jake turned to Amy. Get the Marines ready. We're going down. Amy grinned. She had been waiting for this. Already done, sir. Drop pods are loaded and ready to launch. The drop pods were simple. Each one held 4 Marines in full combat armor. They were designed to fall from orbit, protected by heat shields and retro rockets. It was a fast way to get troops onto a battlefield. And it was absolutely terrifying to watch. Sergeant Kyle Davis checked his armor seals one more time. He was a big man, made bigger by the powered armor he wore. Around him, his squad did the same. Private Melissa Carter, Corporal Ryan Hall, and Private First Class Nicole White. They had trained together for 2 years. Now they were about to drop into their first real combat against an alien enemy. Listen up, Kyle said over the squad channel. We don't know much about these Devourers except that they're big, mean, and they like to kill. So we hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we don't stop until they're all dead. Questions? Yes, Sarge, Melissa said. Are we sure our weapons will even hurt these things? Kyle laughed. Carter, our bullets are made of tungsten and travel at supersonic speeds. If we shoot them, they'll feel it. Trust me, the drop pod shook as it launched from the Vengeance. Kyle felt his stomach lurch as they fell toward the planet. Through the small window, he could see dozens of other pods falling with them. Trails of fire marking their descent. The ground rushed up fast. Retro rockets fired at the last second, slowing them down. The pod hit hard, and the doors blew off. Kyle was moving before the smoke cleared, his rifle up and ready. The battlefield was chaos. Alien soldiers, the Valians, were fighting desperately against creatures that looked like nightmares. The Devourers stood 3 meters tall on 4 legs. Their bodies were covered in thick armor plates. Multiple arms ended in blades and claws. They looked like someone had combined a spider, a scorpion, and a tank. One of the Devourer warriors saw Kyle and charged. It was fast, faster than something that big should be. But Kyle was faster. He aimed and fired a 3-round burst. The tungsten rounds punched through the creature's armor like it was paper. Green blood sprayed out. The Devourer collapsed, twitching. "They die just fine," Kyle said. "Light them up." His squad opened fire. More Devourers fell. The rest of the human Marines were doing the same. Suddenly, the Valian forces weren't retreating anymore. They were advancing, energized by the arrival of reinforcements. A Valian soldier, his skin a pale blue and his body thin and tall, stared at Kyle. You killed it so easily. How?" Kyle reloaded his rifle. "Where we come from, everything wants to kill you. You learn to kill back or you die. Simple as that." He pointed at a group of Devourers trying to flank their position. "You want to survive? Follow me and do what I do?" The Valian nodded and fell in behind Kyle. Together, humans and aliens pushed forward. The Devourers fought back hard, but they had never faced an enemy like this. They had never faced humans. The battle lasted for 6 more hours. When it was over, the Devourers were in full retreat. The colony was saved. 2 days after the battle, a diplomatic ship arrived at the Kepler system. It was sleek and beautiful, nothing like the warships that had been fighting. The ship requested permission to dock with the Vengeance. Jake granted it, though he kept his weapons ready just in case. Ambassador Torella came aboard with a small group of aides. She was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shimmer between blue and green. She had 4 arms, each one moving independently as she gestured while talking. Her species was called the Nexari, and they were the diplomats of the Galactic Council. Jake met her in the conference room. Amy stood beside him, along with Sophie and a few other senior officers. Everyone was curious about their first real meeting with alien leadership. Torella stopped just inside the door. Her large eyes looked around the room, studying each human carefully. Jake could see she was nervous. Her hands trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. "Please sit down," Jake said, gesturing to the chairs around the table. Torella sat slowly, as if she expected the chair to bite her. Her aides remained standing behind her. They looked even more frightened than she did. "Commander Morrison," Torella began, her voice melodic even through the translator. "I come bearing the gratitude of the Galactic Council. You saved millions of lives when you answered our call. We are in your debt." Jake nodded. "We did what anyone should do. You needed help, we provided it." Torella's expression shifted to something that might have been confusion. "But you gained nothing from this action. You risked your ships and your people for strangers. This is not how the galaxy typically operates." Amy leaned forward. "How does the galaxy typically operate?" "Species help each other when there is benefit," Torella explained. "Trade agreements, technology exchanges, territorial concessions. Help is given when something is received in return. But you asked for nothing. You simply came and fought. Why?" Jake thought about how to explain. The aliens clearly didn't understand human morality, or maybe they just had different values. On Earth, we have a concept called doing the right thing. When someone is in trouble, you help them. Not because you expect payment, but because it's what decent people do. We heard your call and people were dying. We couldn't just ignore that." Torella was quiet for a long moment. One of her hands touched a device on her belt. Jake recognized it as some kind of scanner. She was probably checking to see if he was lying. Finally, she spoke again. "Your species continues to surprise us. We have studied you from a distance for many years. Ever since we first detected your radio transmissions, what we learned frightened us." "We know," Sophie said. "Your distress call mentioned that Earth is classified as a death world." Tyrella's skin color shifted darker, a sign of discomfort. It is the only Class 12 death world we have ever found with intelligent life. By all calculations, your species should not exist. The conditions on your planet are lethal. Yet not only did you survive, you thrived. She pulled up a holographic display. It showed Earth spinning slowly. Red markers covered almost the entire planet. Your gravity is 30% higher than the galactic standard. Your atmosphere contains oxygen at toxic levels. Your planet is tectonically active, with earthquakes and volcanoes constantly reshaping the surface. Your weather patterns include hurricanes, tornadoes, and storms that can level cities. The display zoomed in to show different regions. Your oceans contain predators large enough to swallow our largest ships. Your lands are covered in creatures that hunt, kill, and eat each other constantly. Your microscopic life includes diseases that can wipe out entire populations. Even your plants are dangerous, many of them poisonous or covered in thorns. Jake watched the display with interest. It was strange to see his home planet described as a nightmare world. To humans, Earth was just normal. "And yet we're here," he said simply. "Yes," Tyrella agreed. "You are here. And that terrifies us. Do you understand what your existence means? It means that every challenge your species faced, every threat, every danger made you stronger instead of killing you. You didn't just adapt to survive. You adapted to conquer." Amy smiled slightly. "You're not wrong, Ambassador. Humans are persistence hunters. Back on Earth, before we developed technology, our ancestors would chase prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We're not the fastest or the strongest, but we don't give up. Ever, we noticed," Tyrella said dryly. "Your combat footage from the surface battle has been analyzed by our military experts. The way your soldiers fought, the aggression, the fearlessness. You charged at enemies 3 times your size without hesitation. The Devourers have terrorized the galaxy for 2 years. Yet in a single day you broke their ground forces." She leaned forward, all 4 hands flat on the table. "Commander, I must ask you directly. What do humans want? The Council needs to know. Are you here to help us, or are you here to conquer us?" The room went very quiet. Jake understood now. The aliens weren't just grateful. They were afraid. They had called for help from what they thought were monsters, and now they were worried they had made a terrible mistake. "Let me tell you about human history," Jake said slowly. "We spent thousands of years fighting each other. Wars covered every part of our planet. We developed weapons that could destroy our entire world. We came very close to wiping ourselves out several times. But we learned. We grew up. We realized that working together was better than fighting." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "Yes, we can be dangerous. Yes, we can be violent. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. But we also learned compassion. We learned to protect those who can't protect themselves. We learned that real strength isn't about hurting others. It's about helping them." Jake turned back to face Tyrella. "So to answer your question, we don't want to conquer anyone. We want to be your allies. We want to help you defeat the Devourers and rebuild what was lost. And when that's done, we want to be part of the galactic community. We want to learn from you, share with you, and grow together." Tyrella studied him for a long time. Jake could see she was trying to decide if she believed him. Finally, she nodded slowly. "I believe you are sincere, Commander. But I must tell you that the Council is divided. Some believe humans will be our salvation. Others believe you will be our destruction. They see your weapons, your tactics, your willingness to charge into battle, and they fear you will turn that against us someday. Then they'll just have to learn to trust us," Amy said firmly. "We're not asking you to be defenseless around us. Keep your weapons. Keep your fleets. Watch us if you want. We have nothing to hide. Judge us by our actions, not by your fears." Tyrella stood up. "That is fair. I will report back to the Council. In the meantime, what are your plans?" Jake smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had found his prey. We're going to find the rest of the Devourer fleet. We're going to track them back to wherever they came from. And then we're going to end this war, just like that? Torella asked. You make it sound simple. It is simple, Jake said. The Devourers hurt innocent people. We're going to stop them. How we do it might be complicated, but the goal is simple. Torella shook her head in amazement. Deathworlders. You truly are unlike anything else in the galaxy. Very well, Commander. The Council will provide you with all the intelligence we have on Devourer movements and locations. We will also send a fleet to support you. We appreciate that, Jake said. But Ambassador, when the fighting starts, keep your ships back. Let us handle the combat. Your people aren't used to the kind of warfare we're about to bring. Torella didn't argue. She had seen what humans could do. As you wish. I hope you understand the weight of what you're taking on. The Devourers are not like your Earth predators. They are intelligent, organized, and ruthless. Jake walked her to the airlock. Ambassador, let me tell you something about Earth predators. The most dangerous one is standing right in front of you. Humans didn't just survive the Death World. We conquered it. Now we're bringing that same spirit to the stars. As Torella's ship departed, Amy came to stand beside Jake. Think she believed you? About us being the good guys? Jake shrugged. Time will tell. Actions speak louder than words. We'll prove ourselves through what we do, not what we say. And what are we going to do? Jake's expression hardened. We're going to war, Amy. Total war. The Devourers wanted to devour the galaxy? Let's see how they like being hunted by Deathworlders. The war room on the Vengeance was crowded. Jake stood at the head of the table, looking at the holographic star map floating in the center. Red markers showed Devourer positions. Blue markers showed Council worlds. Green markers showed human fleet locations. There were a lot more red than blue. General Patricia Hayes had arrived from Earth 3 days ago. She commanded all human military forces in the sector now. Jake had been promoted to admiral, which still felt strange to him. Patricia was a short woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had fought in more battles than anyone else in the room. Here's what we know, Patricia said, pointing at the map. The Devourers have a main fleet of approximately 300 ships. They've been hitting Council worlds one by one, moving in a pattern from the outer rim toward the center of Council space. They're not just raiding, they're systematically destroying everything. Captain Lovra Bennett studied the pattern. It's like they're hurting their Council forces. Pushing them back, concentrating them? Exactly, Patricia agreed. Which means they have a target. Something at the center they want. Sophie pulled up new data. Council intelligence says their capital world, Sanctuary Prime, is the most defended location in the galaxy. It's got orbital defense platforms, shield generators, and a massive fleet protecting it. If the Devourers are pushing toward it, they're planning something big. Jake traced the pattern on the map. How long until they reach Sanctuary Prime? At their current rate, maybe 6 weeks, Amy calculated. But that assumes they maintain their pace. If they go faster, it could be as little as a month. Patricia nodded. We need to slow them down. Give the Council time to prepare their defenses. That means we hit the Devourers hard and fast, disrupt their advance. We have 30 human ships now, Jake said. More are coming from Earth, but they're still weeks away. The Council has maybe 200 ships, but they're scattered and their tactics are defensive. How do we fight a force 10 times our size? Patricia smiled. It was not a nice smile. The same way humans have always fought when outnumbered. We don't fight fair. We use guerrilla tactics, hit and run attacks, and psychological warfare. We make them afraid. She zoomed in on a section of the map. The Devourers have supply lines. Their ships are organic, which means they need to eat. They're harvesting resources from the worlds they conquer. If we cut their supply lines, we starve them. A starving enemy makes mistakes. Marcus Webb, captain of the Iron Wolf, leaned forward. You want us to hit their logistics? I want you to destroy everything they need to survive, Patricia said flatly. Every supply depot, every harvest operation, every support vessel. We burn it all. Make them choose between advancing or feeding their fleet. Over the next 2 weeks, human ships launched a campaign of destruction that terrified both the Devourers and the Council. They struck fast and disappeared before the enemy could respond. The Stormbreaker, commanded by Chun-Li, hit a Devourer mining operation on a dead moon. The enemy had been extracting rare minerals for their ships. Chun used missiles to collapse the mine tunnels, then bombarded the processing facilities from orbit. The entire operation was destroyed in 20 minutes. The Night Fury, under Sarah Kim's command, intercepted a convoy of Devourer supply ships. These were unarmed vessels carrying food and resources. Sarah's crew disabled them with targeted shots, then boarded them. They took everything useful and destroyed the rest. The Devourer fleet lost enough supplies to feed 50,000 warriors. Jake himself led a raid on a forward staging area. The Devourers had established a base on a captured Council world. They were using it to repair damaged ships and coordinate their advance. Jake brought 4 ships and struck at midnight. Local time, the human ships came in low and fast, using the planet's mountains to hide their approach. They launched ground troops while providing orbital fire support. The Devourers never had a chance to organize a defense. By dawn, the base was rubble and the human forces were gone, but it was the ground war that truly showed what humans could do. Lieutenant Nina Foster commanded a platoon of 40 Marines. They were dropped behind enemy lines on a world the Devourers were in the process of conquering. Their mission was simple but dangerous. Disrupt the enemy advance by any means necessary. Nina's platoon landed in the middle of a forest. The trees were purple instead of green, and the air smelled like cinnamon, but it reminded her of training back on Earth. She gathered her squad leaders around her. All right, listen up. We have 3 days to make the Devourers wish they'd never heard of humans. We're going to use classic guerrilla tactics. Hit them when they don't expect it, then disappear before they can hit back. Make them paranoid. Make them afraid to move. Corporal Ryan Hall checked his rifle. What about the locals? This planet has civilians. We help them when we can, Nina said. But our primary mission is to hurt the Devourers. Questions? There were no questions. The Marines split into teams and moved out. What followed was a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. Nina's team set up an ambush along a supply route. When a Devourer convoy came through, the humans struck from 3 sides. Rockets destroyed the lead and rear vehicles, trapping the convoy. Then the Marines opened fire with everything they had. The battle lasted 5 minutes. Every Devourer died. The humans lost no one. Another team, led by Sergeant Kyle Davis, infiltrated a Devourer command post. They used the darkness and their armor's camouflage to get close. Then they planted explosives on the communication equipment and power generators. When the charges went off, the entire post went dark. In the chaos, Kyle's team eliminated the officers before vanishing back into the night. The Devourers tried to hunt the humans. They sent out patrols, used sensors, and even brought in tracker beasts. But humans were persistence hunters. They knew how to hide, how to move without being seen, and how to strike when the enemy was vulnerable. On the 3rd day, Nina's platoon was extracted. As their shuttle lifted off, she looked down at the battlefield. Columns of smoke rose from destroyed Devourer positions. The enemy advance had been stopped cold. They were too busy looking for ghosts in the forest to push forward. Back on the Vengeance, Patricia reviewed the reports. Human casualties were light. A few wounded, no one dead. Devourer casualties were estimated at over 2,000, with dozens of vehicles and ships destroyed. More importantly, the enemy advance had been slowed. They're getting cautious, Patricia said at the next briefing. Our attacks are making them hesitate. They're pulling back ships to guard their supply lines. That's exactly what we want. Jake studied the updated map. The red markers weren't advancing as quickly now. How long can we keep this up? As long as we need to, Patricia said. But we need to think bigger. Hurting them is good. Stopping them is better. We need to find their home base, wherever they're coming from. Sophie had been working on that problem. I've analyzed every battle, every movement. The Devourers always retreat in the same general direction. There's a region of space here, she highlighted a section of the map, that they seem to be protecting. No Council ships have ever explored it. It's too far from their normal territory. That's where they're coming from, Amy said immediately. That's their home. Patricia nodded slowly. Then that's where we need to go. If we can strike at their home, we can end this war. Jake knew what she was suggesting. It was risky, maybe crazy. Take the fight directly to the enemy's home territory. But it was also very human. When faced with a threat, don't just defend, attack, go right for the throat. How many ships would we need? Jake asked. All of them, Patricia said simply. Every human ship we have, plus whatever Council forces are willing to come with us. We'd be leaving the Council worlds less defended, but if we succeed, we'd end the war in one strike. Lavra spoke up. And if we fail, we lose everything. The Devourers would have a clear path to Sanctuary Prime. Then we don't fail, Jake said firmly. We're humans. We're from a death world. We've survived everything our planet threw at us. We fought and won against enemies that should have destroyed us. This is just one more fight. He looked around the room at his officers. I won't order anyone to come. This is volunteer only. If you want to take this risk, I'm honored to have you. If not, no one will think less of you. There was a moment of silence. Then Lavras stood up. I'm in. Marcus stood. The Iron Wolf is with you. One by one, every captain stood. They were all in. Because that was what humans did. When faced with impossible odds, they didn't run. They charged forward. Patricia smiled. All right then. We have a lot of planning to do. We're going to take this fight to the Devourer's home. And when we're done, they're going to learn why you don't mess with Deathworlders. 6 months had passed since the final battle against the Devourers. Sanctuary Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council, was celebrating. Millions of beings from across hundreds of worlds had gathered to witness humanity's official induction into the galactic community. Jake stood in a waiting room, adjusting his dress uniform for the third time. It was more formal than anything he had ever worn, covered in medals and decorations. Each one represented a battle, a sacrifice, a moment of courage. He hated wearing them. They reminded him of everyone who hadn't made it home. Amy walked in, also in her dress uniform. She looked uncomfortable too. You ready for this? No, Jake admitted. But I guess that doesn't matter. This is bigger than us. The door opened and Ambassador Torella entered. She looked different now, less afraid, more confident. Over the past months, she had spent a lot of time with humans. She had learned that beneath the warrior exterior, humans were complex beings capable of humor, kindness, and doubt. The ceremony is about to begin, she said. The entire council is waiting. So, our representatives from Earth, your president arrived this morning? Jake nodded. He had spoken with President Lisa Morgan earlier. She was proud of what the fleet had accomplished, but also concerned. Earth was changing rapidly now that it was part of the galactic community. New technologies, new ideas, new challenges. They walked through the halls of the council building. It was enormous, built to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. The architecture was beautiful, all curves and flowing lines. Very different from the angular, practical buildings humans preferred. The ceremony hall was packed. Thousands of aliens sat in tiered seating that rose up toward a domed ceiling. At the center was a raised platform where the council leaders sat. High Counselor Vran was there, along with representatives from every major species. As Jake walked to the platform, he saw human faces in the crowd, soldiers who had fought in the war, scientists who had come to learn from alien knowledge, diplomats who were building relationships with other species. Earth had sent its best. He also saw his crew, Sophie, Peter, and dozens of others who had served on the Vengeance. They were smiling, proud of what they had accomplished. In the front row he saw Kyle, Melissa, and Nina, the ground forces who had fought in the dirt and blood. They were the real heroes, High Counselor Vran stood. The hall went quiet. His voice, when he spoke, was projected so everyone could hear. We gathered today to witness a historic moment. For the first time in 300 years, a new species joins the Galactic Council. Humanity has proven itself through courage, sacrifice, and strength. But more than that, they have shown us something we had forgotten. Vran looked at Jake. We had become soft. We built a peaceful society, which is good. But we forgot that peace must sometimes be defended with strength. When the Devourers came, we were unprepared. We didn't know how to fight anymore. We would have been destroyed if not for humanity. He gestured to the assembled crowd. Humans are from a death world. They evolved in constant struggle, in endless competition. This made them dangerous, yes, but it also made them strong. They understand something we had lost. That sometimes, to protect what you love, you must be willing to fight. You must be willing to sacrifice. Vran picked up a crystal orb from the table in front of him. It glowed with an inner light, shifting through different colors. This is the beacon of unity. Every species that joins the council places their hand upon it and makes a pledge. Admiral Morrison, will you accept this honor on behalf of humanity? Jake stepped forward. The hall was completely silent. He placed his hand on the orb. It was warm to the touch, and he felt a strange tingling sensation. I, Jake Morrison, on behalf of all humanity, pledge that we will uphold the values of the Galactic Council. We will work for peace, but we will defend the innocent when needed. We will share our knowledge and learn from others. We will explore the stars with curiosity and respect. And we will never forget where we came from or the struggles that shaped us. The orb flared bright, then settled into a steady blue glow. The color of Earth's oceans, the hall erupted in applause. Not all of it was enthusiastic. Jake could see some aliens who still looked afraid or suspicious. That was okay. Trust had to be earned over time. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Jake found himself surrounded by alien dignitaries, all wanting to meet the human admiral. He shook hands, tentacles, claws, and appendages he didn't have names for. Amy stayed close, helping him navigate the social complexities. A young Valian approached. Jake recognized him. It was the soldier who had fought alongside Kyle on the colony world. His name was Krek. Admiral, Krek said, his voice nervous. I wanted to thank you personally. You saved my world, my family. I owe you everything, Jake smiled. You don't owe us anything, we were just doing what was right. Krek hesitated, then asked the question that was clearly bothering him. Is it true what they say? That on Earth, predators hunted your ancestors? That you had to fight to survive every day? It's true, Jake confirmed. Our ancestors were prey for a long time. Then they became hunters themselves. We carry both those instincts inside us. The fear of being hunted and the drive to hunt. But you control it, Krek said. You don't just kill because you can. You choose when to fight. That's the difference between animals and people, Jake explained. We have instincts, but we also have choice. Yes, we can be violent, but we can also be gentle. The trick is knowing when to be which. Later, Jake found Patricia standing on a balcony overlooking the city. Sanctuary Prime was beautiful at night. Lights sparkled from buildings that stretched toward the sky. Flying vehicles moved through the air in organized streams. Thinking about home? Jake asked. Patricia nodded. Earth seems so far away now. We've changed so much in just a few months. Learning alien technology, meeting new species, exploring new worlds. Sometimes I wonder if we're moving too fast. Maybe, Jake agreed. But that's how humans have always been. We don't do anything slowly. When we see something new, we dive right in. Patricia turned to look at him. Are you worried? About the future? Jake considered the question. Yeah, I am. We're dealing with species that have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They have technologies we barely understand. They have histories and cultures so complex it will take us decades to learn them all. We're like children walking into a room full of adults. But, Patricia prompted, sensing there was more. But we're also bringing something they don't have. Fresh perspectives, new ideas, and, the willingness to fight when necessary. The The galaxy had gotten comfortable, maybe too comfortable. We're shaking things up. That's good, as long as we're careful about it. The next day, Jake visited the memorial that had been built for those who died in the war. It was a simple structure, a tall column of black stone with names carved into it. Human names, alien names, all mixed together. The people who had fought and died side by side. He found the name he was looking for. Ray Cooper, captain of the Harbinger. A good man who had sacrificed himself so others could live. Jake placed his hand on the name. We won, Ray, just like you knew we would. I hope you're proud of us. A voice spoke behind him. He would be, Jake turned. President Morgan stood there, her security detail a respectful distance away. She was older than Jake, with gray in her hair and lines around her eyes, but she stood straight and strong. Madam President, Jake said, coming to attention. At ease, Admiral. This isn't a military moment. It's a personal one. They stood together, looking at the memorial. Morgan spoke quietly. When I authorized you to answer that distress call, I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision. We were risking everything on an unknown situation. But you proved me right. You proved humanity right. We lost a lot of people, Jake said. We did, and we'll lose more in the future. That's the price of being part of something bigger than ourselves. But look what we gained: knowledge, allies, a place among the stars. Our children will grow up knowing there are millions of species out there, all different, all unique. That's worth the cost. Jake wanted to believe that. He really did? But he kept seeing Ray's last moments, the Harbinger exploding in a ball of fire. I hope you're right, ma'am. Morgan put a hand on his shoulder. The job isn't done, Admiral. We need people like you to guide humanity through what comes next. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have conflicts with other species. Some will still fear us. But we need leaders who understand both our strength and our responsibility. What are you asking? I'm asking you to stay out here. Keep commanding the fleet. Be humanity's face to the galaxy. Show them that we're not monsters. Show them what humans can be at their best. Jake looked back at the memorial. All those names. All those sacrifices. They had died believing in something bigger than themselves. Could he do any less? I'll do it, he said, but I do it my way. No politics, no games, just honest work. Morgan smiled. I wouldn't want it any other way. A week later, the human fleet prepared to depart Sanctuary Prime. They had been assigned patrol routes, protecting Council worlds from pirates and other threats. It wasn't as dramatic as fighting the Devourers, but it was important work. Jake stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching the planet fall away below them. Amy was beside him. The human fleet assembled at the edge of Council space. 30 warships hung in formation, their weapons ready and their crews prepared. Alongside them were 50 Council ships. It was the largest combined fleet ever assembled, and it was about to jump into the unknown. Jake stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, now the flagship of the entire operation. He wore his admiral's uniform, though it still felt strange. Around him, his crew worked quietly. They knew what was coming. Everyone did. Ambassador Torella had come to see them off. She stood beside Jake, her forearms clasped in what looked like a prayer gesture. You know this could be a trap, she said quietly. The Devourers might be expecting you. Let them, Jake replied. We're ready for whatever they have. Torella looked at the human ships. They were smaller than the Council vessels, more compact. But there was something dangerous about them, something predatory. I still don't understand you, she admitted. Your species has been in space for less than a century. Yet here you are, leading a fleet to attack an enemy that has terrorized the galaxy for years. You should be afraid. Jake smiled. Oh, we're afraid, Ambassador. Fear is natural. But we learned a long time ago that being afraid doesn't mean you stop. It means you keep going anyway. That's called courage. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. The journey took 6 hours. When they dropped back into normal space, they found themselves in a system unlike anything they had ever seen. A massive space station hung in orbit around a dying red star. The station was enormous, easily the size of Earth's moon. It was covered in the same organic-looking material as the Devourer ships, pulsing and moving like it was alive. Around it, hundreds of Devourer vessels patrolled in organized formations. "Contact," Peter called from the sensor station. "I'm reading 347 enemy ships. Multiple size classes. They're forming up to meet us." Patricia pulled up tactical displays. "They knew we were coming. This is their main fleet." Amy studied the enemy formation. "They're not running. They're getting ready to fight." "Good," Jake said coldly. "Let's give them one." The battle began with a massive exchange of fire. Human railguns sent solid slugs screaming across space. Devourer energy beams lanced out in response. Ships on both sides took damage. The Stormbreaker lost its forward shields. A Council cruiser exploded when its reactor was hit, but the humans had learned from their previous battles. They didn't fight head-on. Instead, they used speed and maneuverability. The human ships darted through the Devourer formation like sharks, striking and then moving before the enemy could focus fire. Captain Marcus Webb brought the Iron Volphin close to a massive Devourer battleship. At point-blank range, he fired his main railgun directly into the enemy's engine section. The battleship shuddered and died, its power gone. Then Marcus fired again, this time into the command section. The battleship broke apart. Lavra Bennett coordinated her ship with 3 Council vessels. They focused their fire on a single target, overwhelming its defenses. One by one, they destroyed Devourer ships through teamwork and combined firepower. But the enemy was learning too. The Devourers adapted their tactics, trying to box in the faster human ships. They used their numbers to create kill zones where the humans couldn't dodge. The Harbinger was caught in one of these traps. Ray Cooper's ship took hit after hit. Shields failed. Armor breached. The ship was dying. "Harbinger, pull back," Jake ordered. "Negative," Ray's voice came through, strained but determined. "We're already dead, Admiral. But we can take some of them with us." Jake watched helplessly as Ray turned his crippled ship toward the largest group of Devourer vessels. The Harbinger accelerated, using the last of its power. "It's been an honor," Ray said. Then his ship rammed into the Devourer formation at full speed. The explosion was like a small sun. When it faded, 10 Devourer ships were gone, and so was the Harbinger. The battle raged for 3 hours. Ships died on both sides. Space was filled with debris and bodies. But slowly, inevitably, the human tactics won out. The Devourers were used to fighting enemies who played by certain rules. Humans didn't have those rules. They fought dirty, used tricks, and never gave up. When the last Devourer ship was destroyed, only 20 human ships remained functional. The Council fleet had been reduced to 30 vessels. But they had one. The Devourer fleet was gone. "The station," Patricia said. "We need to destroy it." Jake studied the massive structure. It was shielded, heavily armored, and probably filled with enemy forces. Taking it would cost more lives. But Patricia was right. If they left it intact, the Devourers could rebuild. All ships concentrate fire on the station. Maximum power. The combined fleet opened up with everything they had. Railguns, missiles, energy beams, all of it hammered into the station's shields. The shields held, then flickered, then failed. The station's hull began to crack. Inside the station, alarms were screaming. The Devourer Queen, the leader of their entire species, felt the station shaking around her. She was massive, 10 times the size of her warriors. She had lived for 300 years and conquered dozens of worlds. But now, for the first time, she felt fear. These humans were like nothing she had ever faced. They fought with a savagery that reminded her of her own species in their ancient past. But they combined that savagery with intelligence and technology. They were perfect predators. The Queen activated her escape pod. She would survive this, rebuild elsewhere. But as her pod launched, a human ship was waiting. The Iron Volp's targeting computer locked on. Marcus fired once. The escape pod and the Queen inside were vaporized. The station broke apart slowly, pieces of it tumbling into the star's gravity well. It would burn, and with it, the last hope of the devourer species. Jake sat back in his chair. Around him, his crew was cheering. They had won. The war was over. But Jake felt only exhaustion. They had lost good people today. The Harbinger and her entire crew. 2 other ships had been destroyed. Hundreds of humans and aliens had died. "Admiral," Sophie said softly, "we're getting transmissions from Sanctuary Prime. The Council wants to speak with you." The holographic display activated. Dozens of alien faces appeared, representing all the species of the Galactic Council. At the center was High Counselor Vran, an ancient being whose species Jake didn't recognize. "Admiral Morrison," Vran's voice was old but strong, "we have received reports of your victory. The Devourer threat has been ended. On behalf of the Galactic Council and billions of beings across hundreds of worlds, we thank you." Jake nodded. "We did what we came to do. But it cost us. A lot of good people died today." "We know," Vran said gently. "And they will be remembered. Humanity has proven itself this day. You are no longer unknowns to us. You are heroes, protectors, and friends." Patricia spoke up. "What happens now?" Vran smiled. It was a strange expression on his alien face, but it was genuine. "Now we rebuild. And we do it together. Humanity will be offered full membership in the Galactic Council, if you wish it. You have earned your place among the stars." Ambassador Torella appeared on the screen. "There are still those who fear humans. Your capacity for violence is undeniable. But you have also shown your capacity for sacrifice and compassion. You fought not for conquest, but to protect others. That is the mark of a noble species." Jake thought about Earth, about all the struggles humanity had faced. "We've learned some hard lessons over the centuries. We know what it's like to be afraid, to suffer, to lose everything. That's why we couldn't ignore your call for help. Because we know what it's like to need help and not have it." He looked at the faces on the screen. "We're not perfect. We're still learning, still growing. But we're willing to work with you, to share our strength and learn from your wisdom. If you'll have us." Vran nodded. "Then it is settled. Welcome to the galactic community, humanity. May this be the beginning of a long and prosperous friendship." The transmission ended. Jake turned to his crew. They were exhausted, battered, but victorious. They had gone to war for strangers and won. They had proven that humanity belonged among the stars. "Set course for Sanctuary Prime," Jake ordered. "It's time to go home. Or at least to our new home." As the fleet jumped to faster than light speed, Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting. The planet that had forged humanity in fire and hardship. The death world that had created a species capable of both terrible violence and incredible compassion. They had answered the call with fire and steel, just as the galaxy had feared. But they had also brought hope, sacrifice, and courage. That was the true nature of humanity. Not monsters, not angels, but something in between. Survivors who had learned to thrive, warriors who had learned to protect, and explorers who would never stop reaching for the stars.